What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of BTBRV Rants. Let's dive straight into the questions. The first question is from a viewer that asks, with all the technology that's in the 2019 trucks, how much maintenance do they need? For instance, how often do things need to get fixed and how long can you make them last? For the most part, the technology is relatively solid unless you just happen to get a truck that has some type of a bug or some type of an issue, and that is known to happen. It's not that any of the vehicles are unreliable, it's just that with all the circuitry, all the microchips and processors that power everything from the navigation system to the computer system, any failure of even a small semiconductor or a small diode can sometimes cause the equipment to malfunction or not work the way it's supposed to, and some of those things can be kind of hard to diagnose. But for the most part, vehicles have actually come a very long way in terms of overall reliability and even maintenance. In many cases, vehicles back 10-15 years ago required a significant amount of preventative maintenance at very short intervals to keep them on the road. Nowadays, you can have vehicles that go upwards of 150,000 miles without any type of major maintenance being needed, and that's a pretty big advancement in my opinion. So overall, I think trucks honestly are more reliable than they've ever been, even though when something breaks, it may be harder to diagnose. So the next question comes from a viewer who is interested in various travel trailers, and he's trying to decide if the 5.7 liter V8 Hemi half-ton truck can tow it or if he needs to go with a 2500 series. When he looks at the different trucks and he tries to plug the numbers in, he's not finding all the information he needs, and he wanted to know if there was like a centralized source that you could go to find out specifically the capabilities of a truck. Now, Trailer Life magazine actually publishes a towing guide annually that pretty much outlines the information you're looking for. Sometimes what it doesn't go over is granular detail tied to payload capacity as well as towing capacity for a specific truck. And unfortunately, there's no one-stop source to go find all of that out. You're generally going to have to go to the manufacturer's website, build that specific truck, and see what the ratings are on that vehicle. So all of the manufacturers publish a towing guide for their trucks, and that's one of the easiest things to Google search. Look up Ford Super Duty 2018 towing guide, and you'll generally get a PDF file that will go through all of the different towing configurations based on the type of truck that you're looking at. Whether it is a crew cab short bed with a 373 gear ratio or the 410 gear ratio, you can look at all the differences between the wheelbase length, the bed length, four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive, as well as gear ratio to determine the specific tow rating of the truck you're looking at. Now, the next question comes from a viewer that says that he has an F350 single rear wheel truck with a stickered payload capacity of 3,233 pounds. The manufacturer's dry pin weight of the fifth wheel that he has is 2,396 pounds. He's already added airbags and helper springs. Do I feel that he's covered? Well, what I don't know, and the information that you didn't include, was the gross vehicle weight rating of your trailer, or at least the scaled weight rating of your trailer, and what specific engine that you have. If you have the gas engine, then you probably have a high payload capacity specifically because of that. If you have the diesel engine, then you probably have the max tow package, which is going to give you that 3,233 pound maximum payload capacity. But based on the numbers you provided me, it looks like you're going to be covered. But again, I don't have all of the information on your trailer or your truck to really give you a definitive answer. So the next question is kind of a tricky question to answer. It's basically a viewer that has an F-150 with two trailers that he tows. He tows a travel trailer and then he follows it up with a utility trailer behind it. Now, he provided all the information in terms of his gross vehicle weight rating of the truck, as well as the gross combined weight rating and the payload capacity, as well as the camper and the utility trailer. Basically, he wants to know is, does the gross vehicle weight rating of the trailer and his utility trailer add up? And does that come off of the maximum capacity of the truck? And how does that affect hitch weight? Because if you have a utility trailer behind your travel trailer and it's applying hitch weight to the back of your travel trailer, how much weight is that removing from the hitch weight that's resting on the back of the truck? And without going to a CAT scale, without going to a scale, that's going to be a really hard number to determine. But you're going to want to make sure that you're not removing too much weight off of the back of the truck and applying too much weight to the back of the travel trailer, simply because that can create a very dangerous imbalance whenever you encounter a sway issue or high winds or any type of a weird traffic specific maneuver that you might have to make, simply because too much weight behind the axles of your trailer can really cause a dangerous situation. That being said, unless you take it to a CAT scale, you're not going to know how much weight is being removed from the hitch of the truck. And reason being is because depending on exactly where the axles of the trailer are positioned, it's going to really determine what type of weight and balance is going to transfer to the back off of the truck versus what's going to stay on the truck itself. And it also matters with your utility trailer. If the majority of the weight of your utility trailer is centered above the axles of the trailer, then that's going to remove less weight from the trailer that you're towing right behind the truck. I know it's kind of a confusing thing, but you're really going to have to take your whole setup to a CAT scale to figure out exactly what your weight is and where that weight is balanced. And then you'll be able to make a better determination. But you are going to want to keep a significant amount of weight on the tongue of the pickup truck to avoid an imbalance while you're going down the road through different types of conditions. So the next question comes from a viewer who asks, why do semi-truck drivers leave their rigs idling at truck stops? And should you do the same thing with lighter duty pickups like an F450 or a 3500 diesel truck? And the answer is you really shouldn't do it at all. Sometimes you're going to see that take place with large rigs because commercial drivers are required to take breaks. And if they've driven a certain number of hours, they now have electronic logging devices inside of their trucks that make sure that they take the appropriate break. And if they don't, they can get in big trouble because they exceed the number of hours that they're allowed to be on the road driving. So that being said, it could be that. It could be because they're just trying to keep the interior cool, and it could just be because they just don't want to turn the truck off for some other reason. But for the most part, it's generally because they're running the air conditioner or they're taking their required break. The next question comes from a viewer with a 1999 F250 with a 7.3 liter diesel engine. He's asking if he put airbags on his truck, would it essentially make it the equivalent of an F350 single rear wheel truck? And that is a hard question to answer. Not necessarily, mainly because there are often gear ratio differences as well as rear differential differences as well as even axle differences that can determine what a specific truck is rated to carry or haul. And if the axle rating on an F350 is 1,000 pounds more than yours, well then you could be overloading your axles. But by adding helper springs, adding airbags, none of that officially increases the payload capacity because oftentimes there's more than just those few components that make up the difference between the two trucks. Some of them are very subtle and hard to notice unless you really dig down on the differences between the two trucks. And then the final question is from a viewer who asks about the differences between the Equalizer weight distribution hitch versus the Anderson weight distribution hitch. Now, I believe they're both very high quality hitches. In my opinion, the Anderson hitch works very well for trailers that are under 7,000 pounds. It provides enough weight distribution, and the friction sleeve that's in the hitch assembly itself does a pretty effective job controlling sway. For heavier trailers, I prefer the Equalizer because it's far more downward pressure on the L brackets and it creates more friction to help control sway, as well as those bars providing more leverage versus that chain setup that the Anderson has on heavier trailers. So I believe you get much better weight distribution with the Equalizer hitch as well as sway control on heavier trailers, whereas the Anderson hitch I think actually performs better on lighter trailers. Anyways, guys, that's all the time I have for questions today. Remember, if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to this channel, please do so, but also my main channel, Big Truck, Big RV. We'll talk to you again very soon.